Hello, everyone, to another episode of The Puzzle with me and Bruno. We're both two business-minded engineers, and we're exploring very difficult questions every time in 10 plus 2 minutes. Today, we have a very interesting question that Bruno can tell us a lot about, and I will jump in and riff on his points, which is about what people used to say, move fast and break things, this heroic thing. This sounds very cool and very Silicon Valley style. But how can you move fast without breaking things? And that's actually the question we want to explore in this episode.
Yeah. Yes, I love sharing more about it. Difficult in this time, but I'll like always do my best, and you will help me out. So I come from a background of defense, industrial design, industrial engineering, manufacturing, etc., where it was important to quickly prototype very complex, very challenging physical products and do no harm. Don't break things. What was meant by that is it could very easily lead to life loss. So it wasn't, the same context where the original expression came from, which was more of a software development, Facebook, etc., put it on a website. But it introduces a false difference. Like if you're taking care of safety, you cannot move fast, which is absolute bollocks. So you can take care of safety and you can be moving fast. And to give you an example of very physical, we're talking about huge physical product where we were able to prototype very, very rapidly, learn very rapidly without doing any harm to the business or to the customers. We did end up breaking our own prototypes, but they were in the service of learning. So that was okay. That's what the point of prototype is. And we were doing it basically by starting first digital prototypes. So think digital models, simulations on computers. And then we went to the manufacturing hall. And that is where we did parts of that physical product. We would just manufacture it without thinking necessarily about manufacturability for 1,000 or 10,000 pieces, but just to get this one. Now, what was the trick? To do no harm, because if you do too many prototypes that are expensive, you're doing harm to your own business, not necessarily your customers, but to your own business. Was that every time before we made a prototype, we were very clear about what we want to learn, what insight, what data are we looking for, so that we can improve the end product, that we can improve it from the perspective of functionality, from the perspective of manufacturing it. So every prototype had a purpose. And whenever it broke, it didn't hurt our bottom line because it helped us make the product that was eventually category winner. So we kept on moving fast. There was no one ever at jeopardy, except a few times because we were stupid young engineers, but that's okay. and we delivered on everything. So it is perfectly possible to move fast and don't break things. But you have to be clear, what are you moving for? And you have to be clear, what is do no harm in your case? Usually, I think about customer, I think about employees, and I think about business itself.
Yeah. You are bringing up a whole bunch of topics that is very, very dear to me, which is the role that simulation and exploration of the design space can play to exactly move fast without breaking things. Generally, breaking things in the physical realm is expensive, both in terms of actual costs, direct costs, and opportunity costs, labor costs, whatever other liabilities this might cause. And over the last 20 years, I would say, we have, as engineers, as the world, as humanity, we have such amazing tools we have gotten access to that allow us to almost run faster than what was ever considered viable to get an estimation of whether that we are thinking of can be done, can lead to a beneficial result without actually investing in the actual tangible things. So it brings us back to a different episode a bit, where we're saying how to make good decisions, how to move fast, and break things that are cheap to break, where you know the purpose, and the purpose is always to build knowledge that will allow you to step on less and less shaky ground to get to the end result. And I like what you said about the purpose. I have experienced this myself as an engineer. many years ago, where I perceived with very big disappointment a mindset of designing engineering goods, which was based on trial and error. And you try, you say, oh, my time is up, the budget is gone. What do we have? We have something that is good. We christen it optimal, and we move on to hardware testing. And then, because it has taken so much time to pseudo-optimize, and then you're betting the farm on this one thing that you designed with lots of effort, then you're basically like this: let's hope it doesn't break, let's hope it doesn't break. Whereas the understanding should be, I want this to break. I want this I want it to test it to failure. By the way, I know you have the book by Alan Ward. I see it back there above the Plain Lean book. And that's one of the key things that is in the book. You do not test to specification. You test it to failure, because you want to go beyond what you think is satisfactory. You want to learn to understand the limits of the system. And to do that, you need to know what you want to understand, what you want to learn, so that you make every one of your move fast and break things phases, if you want to call them phases, make it as insightful as possible, without cost, without harm to human life, without harm to the business, without harm to stakeholders, shareholders, anyone, to anyone, right? Minimize that harm, but get as much, call it leverage if you want, as much leverage out of this bout of exploration that you want to do.
Yeah. So one thing that came to me as you were talking is might be more of a cautionary tale, and I will not share too many details, because, well, everything we share is from our practice, right? So,
Yes.
so it's not about
it's not from a book.
Yeah. We cannot foresee, no matter how much we think about anything, we cannot foresee everything that's going to happen. So, so you know how it goes: unintended consequences, unintended developments, etc., etc., etc. But to me, words have weight, gravitas. Move fast and break things brings you in a specific mindset where it encourages you not to even think what could possibly break and what impact it could have on a broader ecosystem. And no names, but very, very real, very painful move fast and break things story. I was observer for this one, just to clarify. So a large organization was preparing a new product in a category where they're present, but they didn't have a product. So they decided, we want to have a product to grab a piece of the market. And they just made a few sexy prototypes and bam, testing them into the market. Their phones started ringing the same day they went live. Why? Because they didn't have a product in that market, because they told their suppliers that they will never have a product in that market, because their suppliers have a product in the market. So now suppliers started calling, what is this? Is this really happening? Is this your product? Because it was white label product, but it was white label with all the design of the mother company. So they moved fast. They broke a hell of a lot of things. And the worst of all, they pulled it the same day. So there was no direct financial damage, but there was huge reputational loss, which to me is, you did harm. You did not think about what could be broken. You did not think what would this mean for your organization, and you ended up with nothing. So
and probably they didn't even learn that much. That's the worst part of it. They didn't learn anything that was probably very valuable. I cannot imagine that lesson very valuable in the short time that they tested it.
Well, they did learn that the website was easy to find, obviously, because the phone started ringing in less than 2 hours.
Yeah.
So that was the learning. So there is importance in thinking through like these axioms or sayings that we find and then put on company walls. It all impacts people to an extent. So do think what kind of statements you want to put out and in what frame of mind it puts people in. I am all for kind of being more creative, more innovative and all of this, but I don't think safety should be sacrificed. It is kind of, I mean, this might be an engineer in me speaking, but kind of talking about quality delivery and safety, it's not a trade-off.
Yeah.
It never should be a trade-off.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the, you know, this is good design. This is good thinking. It's good decisions tying into the previous conversations. They can be made. It is more work, and we are getting a bit lazier. And I'm looking down because I see I'm out of time. So I will stop here and let you wrap it up.
I will add something, because it's a difficult thing to not do. All of us who are let's say action-oriented, who do not like sitting around waiting for things to just happen, fall out of the sky in our lap. And we all of us who have an ambition to see a product through, to launch it, to get it done, we can get frustrated when things go slower than what we wish for. And the imagination we have about how fast something should go or could go does not always match reality, the reality of the situation, for whatever reason. Maybe because the system that we're acting within is not within our control, and very rarely are things that are in control. And I have such an experience over the last few months where I became impatient about the pace of development of a little feature in the backend of a software we're developing, about to launch soon. And I did what the CTO of our development partner said. I YOLO'd on the production server. So I just logged in with SSH to the production server, and I went and edited directly the backend. It's not launched yet, so no harm could be done. But there is harm that can be done, and was done, when the staging and the production server were not using anymore the same state. So on this one, some data was being generated in a different way than here. And that was confusing because I made a change there, which was off the Git, where the code comes from. And this is a situation that you can easily get into, and you can break. What do you break then? You break people's time. You waste people's time, because you step out of the, let's say, even if it's slower than you would like to, you step out of a process. It's an implicit process. It's an expectation of how things work. You make your change, you have your impact, you are happy for a little while, but you basically offload the pain to somebody else. And that by itself is harm. So it is breaking things. You're not breaking your thing. You got your fix, you made it work, but without thinking of the downstream consequences. And that brings us back full circle to what you said in the beginning. I take out of this 2 words: unintended consequences. I think that's how I would summarize the answers to this question. Is yes, go fast, but think about the fact that the greatest harm often comes from the best intentions due to unforeseen, unexpected consequences. And that's something to always keep in mind when you want to move fast. And I agree totally. Words have power. And when you put in those terms, oh, we're the next Facebook, you are causing some things that might not be acceptable for your situation, your product, your industry, your suppliers, your customers, your context. So don't take those expressions at face value. So I hope that was insightful. Thank you for viewing and listening in, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.